Okay, this is part 2 of the walkthrough of this track that I made for a slide video as a promotional kind of material thing for a documentary that I'm helping work on. What we've done so far is gone through and sampled something offline, warped it, started adding some light drums and percussion to it, and now we're kind of getting the ball rolling on building a track. I think that I should go in here next and show some of the other sampling that I did. So this track up here, I took from a National Geographic show that I was watching on Blue Holes, and I'm having a lot of fun lately sampling National Geographic because they just have great sounds off the bat, and when they're not narrating over it and there isn't sound from the scene playing, the arrangement and the music is really isolated and simple and just kind of like cool sounds. So this is just a loop that I made, same exact concept, using audio hijack to capture the audio and then bringing it into Ableton and kind of stretching it and moving it around so it could work. And you see it just keeps looping. It's really simple. I believe right here is, sorry, right there is the loop. So I'll just play that for you. These little pieces in the beginning, those are just little snippets that I took and pitched into the key of the song, and I'll probably go in further and like continue to do that and try to make something a little bit more dynamic and complex. But do you hear that with the rest of everything else? So there's another sample I put in there. This ping effect, let's see what I did here. I'm not exactly sure. So that's just another sound that I took from the exact same clip. I believe this is now MIDI data, so I sliced it and put it into the drum cells by going to slice to new MIDI track. If you right click on an audio region and hit slice to MIDI track, you can slice it to different parameters. It'll tell you how many slices you're going to have, and it'll put all of that into a drum cell for you. So I had all these little kind of sounds in this drum cell now. I put a ping pong delay and overdrive on it, and I just did a low cut around 300 or so. So you see that's just kind of in the background creating texture. This is another sample from that beginning sample that we worked on with the guitar, or rather with that kind of like conga, bongo percussion stuff. I took another little snippet from that same thing and just pulled out the guitar, and I just have that accenting you know, on every other, on the beginning of each phrase. So just kind of continuing to make it more complex. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 samples going on right now, at least. That's not music that I made myself, that's stuff I've been taking. This is a vocal from I believe, a John Wayne movie. It's just this girl and just kind of saying, I think I'm glad that everyone came, or something like that. It was just cool, and I pulled it out and used that.
To tell you what he can.
And you can see right there that alien saying that. Yeah. That's just me stretching that sample. So I made a new consolidation so you can't see my original warp markers, but originally that was much shorter.
To tell you what he can. To tell you what he can.
See, I can stretch things out. This sound, that's all just little tiny snippets from within that same thing that I sampled, and I just placed them on the grid to kind of, I don't know, make some cool effect out of these little vocal snippets, and I also pitched them up and down so they'll fit with the track. So basically, I want to play for you all the samples that I have going on so far with maybe just that jingle bell percussion, and you can hear kind of how it's already a living and breathing thing, and I haven't added any necessarily production value onto it myself or composition. I've just added ping pongs and effects and reverbs, really simple stuff. So I'll just solo basically all of the samples that I have. I'll play the one other one for you. It's a sample of some Kujung music. This is also a slice to MIDI kind of situation where I sliced it into a drum track. And I just took out one or two little pieces from all of these slices that I had. This automation right here is just left and right panning back and forth. So when I make my templates, I like to have all of my sampling that I do in green. That's just my thing. It really helps if you have colors that are consistently always the same thing. I always do my drums in this orange, bass in blue, my percussion's in this kind of green tone, synthesizers purple and pink, samples green. Just, you know, do whatever you want, but that's my gig. Right now I'm just sampling I'm just soloing all of our samples, and maybe just the percussion as well. And you can hear how it's got a lot going on already, and we haven't even composed a single thing on top of it. Okay, so I've got all that rolling, and I like it. I kind of arranged it so I've got it building slightly as an intro. The percussion comes in on the second 16-bar loop. We have the vocal coming in on the third 16-bar loop. Some extra variation on the last 16-bar loop. Again, everything is just moving in these 16-bar sections. Really basic, really easy. You can easily build 16-bar sections by working on 4-bar loops. 4 bits of 4 make 16. Pretty simple. So maybe we'll start soloing some synthesizer stuff. The most basic, this is just a drone that I looped. You can see all these different regions. They're all just loops. I mean, that's not a complex sound at all. That's just really simple and tonic. I have this LFO tool on here, which is an awesome plugin. You can kind of just draw in different curves. It's basically like a side chainer on crack, which you can adjust all sorts of different things. You know, filters, cutoffs, panning, volume. You can assign them all into these different cells. If I turn that effect on, it does something a little bit more interesting than just a simple drone. But I actually have it turned off, and I'm thinking of just automating it to come in at certain sections to create variation. But for now, this track is really simple. So let's take that drone and solo all of our samples with that percussion track. Here I just have tiny little snippets. I named it distorted delay. I've got, let's see, probably some stuff going on here in salient. Just really simple preset, slightly adjusted. I have this overdrive on here. Let's see if you can hear it. I have Nexus on here. This is again just a loop of 4 bars to make 16. Really simple. So you can see it's just, all these sounds are kind of just in the background. Here's another synthesizer. That little 4-bar chunk looped all the way through. The exact same thing as here. What I did was just delete that. Sorry, here we go. All I did was just delete that beginning section by hitting Command X. So and then let's see, we only got a couple more here. I have another synthesizer, same deal, 4 bars looped throughout for the 16 section. There's a 16, there's a 16. Basically what I did here is just kind of keep building these synthesizers one after another and kind of filling in the blanks, but not making it too heavy. I actually might trim a lot of this stuff down and do variations. Right now this track is in the stage where I'm listening back to everything and kind of analyzing it. It's not finished, and so these things that just continue to loop, I mean, all this information is the same. It just keeps looping and looping. There's really nothing new happening there. Once I get the track rolling and breathing, then I can start thinking about maybe how I'm going to variate things and start working subtractively. It works best if you work subtractively from this point instead of continuing to add things. You want to pull everything out that isn't making the track as strong as it could be. Perhaps maybe filling in a few more blanks, but from this point we have enough material where we can start refining and trimming back and sculpting, you know, everything that isn't what we want the song. Then I think I just have some arpeggiator here. have some kind of splashy effects pinging. After that, I went in and added some toms, but they're pitched to be really low. And I just used Salient for that, using the synth tom. I think maybe there's some cymbals. With a simple delay and some reverb. And then I have some sub bass here. Probably should do a little bit more sculpting on the EQ. But what I did was I had a sub bass hit that I made a while ago, and what I did was I cut it into these sections and did some volume automation so it tails out nice and slow like that. You can see how it tails out. That's just volume automation that I did. If you go down here and hit the E and then volume, you can adjust automation within your region, not within the session view. And I'll do an example of that. So here's without anything. It'll be hard to hear if you don't have headphones on. But basically I did some volume automation within the region, and then I did a Command J and made a new consolidation of all of that, which gave me this complete track right here. See how it's not chopped up at all. So one thing that's really important to do is when you are sampling, such as areas like this up top, you know, our original sample that we started with, it's absolutely imperative that when you're happy with whatever region you have, that you highlight it and you do Command J, and that makes a consolidation. This is important because it allows you to now use these things as building blocks. You know, you're literally just putting building blocks together at that point, but it also makes an entirely new audio file, which is important because if you see down here, this section which is grayed out, says media files are missing, please click here to learn more. Now if I knew where the media file was, I could relink it. But if you do an Apple J or Command J consolidation, the media file will no longer be missing because it's made a new one. It's not referencing some sample that you have on your desktop or something that you have in Audio Hijack. It's its own new creature now, and you don't have to worry about losing that. And it's happened to me a lot before. I've made a really cool vocal edit, and I didn't consolidate it, and eventually lost it. Something happened with the file, I'm not exactly sure, but you could also go through, highlight all of these and do a Command J consolidate, but that's not really necessary. I'd like to keep them in their individual blocks, and that way I can see what's happening and I can move them around. So at least I opened up all of kind of the synthesizers and what I did with them, or how I started going about building them. As far as how I chose them, I was just looking for things with slow attacks, or adjusting them to have slow attacks, really kind of happier, bouncy sounds, really just putting a lot of different pieces together. And this is not a finished track by any means, but it's enough to get me to start doing my final revisions or stages. This is just, you know, ultimately going to be about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So, as far as arranging, I'm pretty close. I'll just do some variations on these different loops and building blocks that I've made, and with everything off, starting just 4 bars before the drums, this is kind of all of that put together. So this is everything that I composed. And this is everything, more or less, everything that I sampled. So that's kind of a basic walkthrough of what I did on this track, and I can go in further and kind of explain like some of the effects that I used and different, I don't know, just EQing stuff, but the basics are all there, at least explained, and everything that isn't bass information, make sure that you EQ out everything with a low cut. So that'll ultimately help your kick and your bass to breathe much nicer. So, you know, just go through, and every track that doesn't have bass information or doesn't need it, you kind of just go through and sweep that area to pull out that low end information that you don't necessarily need in the track. That's one of the first things that you do when you're starting to put everything together. Like as you're building a new sound, decide instantly in that moment, do I need highs, do I need lows, and then tighten it up. And you're kind of just cleaning up every sound to only be the part that it needs to be. So when you add in a sub bass or you add in these big kicks or anything like that, you'll have room for them. So that's just kind of a walkthrough of this track, and I'll get to these hideaway percussion samples that I have. I can just group all of this together and you can have it, and you can play with all these shakers and other stuff that I made. So there you have it.